All right, good morning. It's Monday, May 18th, 2020 AD. So I'd love to keep up the sound of the waves there, but sometimes it messes with the, it easily covers up the voice. And I haven't made a video in a while. I forgot. So what I have to do is, I'm recording and streaming the audio of this the waves crashing here, or whatever it is I happen to be playing, and through the interface I've got to bring down that inline recording, but then the microphone I have to bring up, but just because I bring it down in the streaming deal, it doesn't mean it's not picking it up from my speakers. So I've kind of got to work that out. So if it gets a little wonky at the end, that's what's happening. All right, so here we are in day number, I don't know how many thousands of days of the siege that's been going on. I don't know, what is it, since 1775? How many days is that? That'd be an interesting number to find out. People say quarantine day number whatever, but which affectionately means siege. You're under siege. Under siege. It's becoming more and more apparent. But what did they say? Someone once said that, I don't think they called it democracy, but they said that it would go out with a not with a bang, but with a whimper. Freedom, was it? The Republic. Maybe they just called it democracy, but in the United States, we're not a quote-unquote democracy. That's the worst form of government, practically. One of the worst forms. All right. So this morning, I want to talk about Psalm 18, and I want to just think about it. And, how wonderful is this? I didn't have to search looking for some video and background and with nature sounds or music. This was the first thing that came up, and it's perfect. Because what we're going to be thinking about here is right now is a great time of darkness. Darkness for all peoples, because there's darkness in the church, people of God. And there's a lot of confusion. When you have just a smattering of pastors who even understand the times, or who know, and let alone understand them, but even dare speak to them and try to bring their people into awareness of things. When I say their people, they're not their people. They're servants of the people. They're servants of the Most High God, and they are shepherds. So the flock is not theirs. That doesn't belong to them at all. What did the master say to Peter? Feed my sheep. Not feed your sheep. Feed my sheep. I wonder how many pastors really think of them as the Lord's sheep. Or do they think of them as my congregation? So just look at that house set upon that hill. Look at that house set up high, away from these crashing waves and the mists that roll in. Look at the rocks. Look how steadfast, immovable they are against the crashing of the waves. How much does a gallon of water weigh? It's like 5 pounds, 15. I don't know. It's a lot. I've got to look it up. I knew that once, and I was kind of astounded. But a gallon is heavy. How many gallons of water are in one of those waves? Let's just say a 10-foot by 10-foot length of it. Multiply the weight of the water plus the force of the movement. What kind of force is that? And constant battering. Well, my brothers and sisters, aren't you constantly battered day in and day out? Much of it's within. What did the Master say? The kingdom of God is within you. Well, is the kingdom of God within us reigning? Or do we have jesters sowing doubt in our own minds about our own selves, about our own salvation, about the deliverance of the Lord, about his nearness to us, about his power and might, about his real love and care, and his soon deliverance from all our troubles, all our enemies, all our fears. You know, there's a great hymn, Take It to the Lord in Prayer. And one of the lines is, "Oh, what peace we often forfeit. Oh, what needless pain we bear. All because we don't carry everything to God in prayer." Well, I'm here to tell you, ask me how I know. Because that's hopefully that's really turning in my life and changing. I've prayed to be, is what I imagine, like the saints of old to be, you know, as you might esteem them, like the ones who were martyrs, the ones who were, if you think about during the Crusades and Inquisition, and you know, that were just hunted down, who were drawn and quartered, put on sticks of fire, bundles of sticks lit on fire, and they're tied up and burned to death, and for not renouncing their faith and swearing allegiance to Rome and whatnot. Okay, I want to just get into it. So I'm going to start reading, but as I do, think about the image that you're seeing here. If you just glance at it again, think of the mighty waves that are crashing upon those rocks, immovable. And look at that house up on the hill, where inside is warm, where inside there's comforts, soft chairs, tables, there's, I'm sure, a refrigerator with food, cabinets with food, good food, fellowship. Are you set upon the rock? Now, even if someone's set upon the rock, any one of those people could descend out of that house, down the stairs, you know, across the deck, down the stairs, down the lawn, down the hill, upon the rocks, smelling the salt and the brine as they get down on the rocks, and walk out to the edge and become easily injured, even swept away, because they didn't abide in the safety of that house. They didn't abide upon the rock. They went down and got away from the rocks, you know. Anyway, the analogy is pretty simple. So, to the chief musician, a psalm of David, the servant of the Lord, who spake unto the Lord the words of this song. This is a song. In the day that the Lord delivered him from the hand of all his enemies, from the hand of Saul. And he said, I will love thee, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock and my fortress and my deliverer, my God, my strength, in whom I shall trust, my buckler, the horn of my salvation, and my high tower. I will call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from my enemies. The sorrows of death compassed me about, and the floods of ungodly men made me afraid. The sorrows of hell compassed me about, and the snares of death prevented me. In my distress I called upon the Lord and cried unto my God. He heard my voice out of his temple, and my cry came before him, even into his ears. Then the earth shook and trembled. The foundations also of the hills moved and were shaken, because he was wroth. There went up a smoke out of his nostrils, and fire out of his mouth devoured. Coals were kindled by it. He bowed the heavens also, and came down, and darkness was under his feet. And he rode upon a cherub, and did fly. Yes, he did fly upon the wings of the wind. And he made darkness his secret place. His pavilion round about him were dark waters, and thick clouds of the skies. At the brightness that was before him, his thick clouds passed, hailstones and coals of fire. The Lord also thundered in the heavens, and the highest gave his voice, hailstones and coals of fire. Yes, he sent out his arrows and scattered them, and he shot out lightnings and discomfited them. Then the channels of water were seen, and the foundation of the world were discovered at thy rebuke, O Lord, at the blast of the breath of thy nostrils. He sent from above, he took me, he drew me out of many waters. He delivered me from my strong enemy, and from them which hated me, for they were too strong for me. They prevented me in the day of my calamity, but the Lord was my stay. He brought me forth also into a large place. He delivered me because he delighted in me. I'm going to stop there. It goes on. Now, let's think about this, because this is for you, whoever's listening to this. This is to you, right? Really is. May your heartstrings resonate with this, because you have enemies. You have enemies, and you have people who are under the control of your enemies. Note the distinction. Other people are not necessarily our enemies. For what's the Bible say? We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual wickedness. ... You know, when I was a teenager, I used to travel up and down one of the main highways in my state to get from one end to the other. And there was a billboard. This is somewhere in the 80s. There was a billboard that said, "Jesus is the answer." I remember seeing that and realizing, you know, somebody paid a lot of money to have that billboard up there. Jesus is the answer. And at the time, now, I guess that you need to know kind of where I was at the time. I was brought up with going to church, and without and I let's just say that I don't know even know if this is important. At that point in time, and I was a teenager, I was thinking about a lot of things, but what was way down on importance of my list, or where I was not really seeking the Lord or anything like that at all. I was marching out into darkness, thinking that's the way to go. I was looking for maybe a good time. I don't know. I know I had a lot of deep thoughts, and I pondered a lot about life and things, and I thank the Lord for establishing my thoughts on that, because that was His work. But I will tell you that I guess what I'm trying to say is that I wasn't utterly lost, but I was also getting lost, and I was in enough darkness that when it said Jesus is the answer, I kind of smirked at it. You know, it's like, that's stupid. The answer to what? So I was applying rational thought to it. Well, you know, I can honestly say right now, the answer to that question I had, which I asked very sarcastically, I guess is the word, to answer to what? That's so stupid. I'm sure somebody's paying like $500 a month or something for that sign or whatever. What a waste. Well, I'll tell you, I was like, what is the question? The answer to what? Jesus is the answer to every question, to anything, to everything. I've come to was I smarter then than I am now? Was I more experienced then than I am now? No. I'm sure myself now, talking to my 18, 19-year-old self then, 17 maybe too, I don't know, that sign was there a lot, would probably that teenager would probably, I'd like to think he'd take his older self seriously, but, would probably still not get it. Jesus is the answer. At the time I was strong. I fought my own battles. How about that? I fought my own battles, at least so I thought. But then you realize your enemy's too mighty for you. You realize in time that the enemy's been working within the camp. It's been destroying you from within. The enemy's been all around you. It's been in your closest friends. And you're fighting battles against something you're not prepared to fight. The enemy has a lot more experience than you or I do. And right now, I guess I'm going to move on from that. I'm not sure if I really explored it as much as I wanted to. But yeah, billboard said Jesus is the answer. And I'm sure there were people in that time that billboard, at the right moment, they looked up with the questions of their heart of what they're going to do now. How are they ever going to make it? How are they going to carry on? That billboard was illuminated to them. It was a beacon. It was a lighthouse to them. Maybe I'm going to call a pastor tomorrow. Maybe I'm going to go talk to my friend who I know knows the Bible, knows the Lord. And I'm going to get wisdom. And I'm going to find my way out. I'm going to find my way. I'm going to get hope again. Right now is a time of hopelessness for many people. Many people are losing their businesses. They're losing their minds. Really, many are losing their lives. And not because of this virus. They're losing their minds. They're losing their lives to suicide. They're losing their marriages to infighting and bickering and driving each other up the wall, because the balance that they knew of he and she, usually these days, he and she both leave for work, take the children if they have them, to have them raised by somebody else. And they had a balance that when everybody was dumped in on each other again, their coping skills, and the enemy knew this. The enemy knew this was going to cause a lot of chaos. Thankfully, I'm sure many families have grown closer, stronger, or overcome some of these issues, but there are many that perished on the rocks. They were dashed against the rocks. They were ground like mortar and pestle. Ground down and fell apart. Maybe right now they're still together, but their every day is a living hell, a nightmare. They can't get out of their house. Now, you probably live in a place where, yeah, you can go out, and you can go out, by the way. You can go out and do things, but some places are a little harder than others. Some places, bigger cities in particular, they have other issues. There are people that risk getting arrested for going certain places or doing certain things. I'm fortunate I don't live in a place where that's going on. Nevertheless, nearly everything's been shut down. But things have changed, and I'm here to tell you that's a good thing, honestly. It's a good thing. The enemy has shown its hand, and as the enemy usually does, as experienced as this one is, overplays their hand. Many people are realizing right now, just like they did after 9/11, and that was very short-lived, but Jesus is the answer. By the way, I say it in every video. I use the name Jesus, not his real name. But I'm not going to get hung up on that. And the story was, I saw a billboard that said Jesus is the answer. And we all know who that is. It's the Savior of mankind who is coming again pretty soon. What is soon? I don't know. I'll tell you what soon means. The soon means we're the little children in the back of the car seat saying, are we there yet? We're almost there. Well, almost seems like forever. Whether it's tomorrow, I think if the Lord came tomorrow, it might be too soon. And if he comes 20 years from now, it seems like he's never going to come. Well, I tell you what, I I want to be ready, but I also don't want the Lord coming back when I got a sink full of dirty dishes and things like that. I'd like to get some things in order, if you know what I mean. And dirty dishes are the least of my problems. Besides, I'd love to see many, many people saved that I don't believe are saved. We're seeing a lot of people. One of the beautiful things about this situation for those who have eyes to see is when you see the people who are just blind followers, so that they are really ruled by TV. As Jim Morrison once said, we are ruled by TV. They really are. They're ruled. They believe the tyranny of the experts. And the experts are a priest class. The experts, the medical professors are a priest class. The scientismists are a priest class. And they are part of the ruling bodies, right? Well, we're not, in America anyway, we're not to have ruling bodies. We're to have a limited government that protects our liberties, which are God-given, inalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And by the way, it should go without saying, but I guess these days it needs to be said, that Constitution does not work for a wicked people. You cannot have liberty, life, and pursuit of happiness, no matter how the government behaves, if your neighbors, not just your single next door neighbor, but I mean if the country, if the nation descends into wickedness, because it's where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's freedom. That's true. Where people they don't steal, they don't murder, they don't take another man's wife, or a wife does not seduce another woman's husband. That happens all the time. I mean, we even have websites now that celebrate adultery. Ashley Madison, I think it was called. I don't know if it's still around, but I remember a few years ago that came out. And basically, I do remember their motto, life's too short to not have an affair. Something like that. I was just so brazen. Well, yeah, their life is pretty short because they won't make it to eternal life. They'll make it to eternal death. You just can't. It's one thing we're all sinful creatures. It's one thing to succumb to weaknesses and things like that. It's another thing to parade them out, to parade in sin. Oh, I don't like thinking about it. But all right, so I wanted to go a little further here, and I'm going to talk about Psalm 18. And it's one thing that I ramble on about it, but I really recommend The Treasury of David by Charles Spurgeon. It just really illuminates things here. So I'll start off the first three verses. I will love thee, O Lord, my strength. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, and my deliverer. My God, my strength, in whom I will trust. My buckler, the horn of my salvation, and my high tower. I will call upon the Lord, who is worthy to be praised. So shall I be saved from my enemies. I think it's very important to recognize that calling upon the Lord has a direct relationship to being saved from our enemies. I think that's importantly juxtaposed. With strong, hearty affection will I cling to thee, as a child to its parent or a spouse to her husband. The word is intensely forcible. The love is of the deepest kind. Quote, I will love heartily with my inmost bowels, unquote. Here is a fixed resolution to abide in the nearest and most intimate union with the Most High. Our triune God deserves the warmest love of all our hearts. Father, Son, and Spirit have each a claim upon our love. The solemn purpose never to cease loving naturally springs from the present fervor of affection. I need to read that again. The solemn purpose never to cease loving natural. Well, I'll start over again. The solemn purpose never to cease loving naturally springs from present fervor of affection. It is wrong to make rash resolutions. Oh, that's true. But this, when made in the strength of God, is most wise and fitting. I'm just going to say air quotes, my strength. Our God is the strength of our life, our graces, our works, our hopes, our conflicts, our victories. This verse is not found in 1 Samuel 22 and is a most precious addition, placed above all and after all to form the pinnacle of the temple, the apex of the pyramid. Love is still the crowning grace. Okay, I'm not sure what this 1 Samuel 22 reference is, but let's move on to the second verse. The Lord is my rock and my fortress, air quotes. Dwelling upon the crags and mountain fastness. That's a new one for me. I must not have ever read this commentary before, because I've read a lot of this. I've never seen this word before in my entire life. That's how I know. Dwelling among the crags and mountain fastnesses of Judea, David had escaped the malice of Saul. And here he compares his God, which is, by the way, my God and your God, your Father in heaven. Here he compares his God to such a place of concealment and security. Believers are often hidden in their God from the strife of tongues and the fury of the storm of trouble. I know I've experienced that. Thank the Lord for that. The clefts of the rock of ages are safe abodes. My deliverer, air quotes, interposing in my hour of peril. When almost captured, the Lord's people are rescued from the hand of the mighty, by him who is mightier still. This title of deliverer has many sermons in it, and is well worthy of the study of all experienced saints. My God, air quotes. This is all good things in one. There is a boundless wealth in this expression. It means my perpetual, unchanging, infinite, eternal good. He who can or she, all who can say truly, my God, may well add, my heaven, my all. My strength, air quotes. This word is really my rock, air quotes, in the sense of strength and immobility. My sure, unchanging, eternal confidence and support. Thus the word rock occurs twice, but is no tautology. For the first time, it is a rock for concealment. But here, a rock for firmness and immutability. That's worth reading again. The word rock occurs twice, but is no tautology, which I've seen that word before, but I'll have to look it up again. Something to do with the language. And, like you might, like a stanza or something like that. It has something to do with that, but I've forgotten what it is. Faith must be, let's see. No, the word rock occurs twice, but is no tautology. For the first time, it is rock for concealment, but here, a rock for firmness and immutability. In whom I will trust, air quotes. Faith must be exercised, or the preciousness of God is not truly known. And God must be the object of faith, or faith is mere presumption. My buckler, air quotes, warding off the blows of my enemy, shielding me from the arrow or sword. The Lord furnishes his warriors with weapons, both offensive and defensive. Our armory is completely stored so that none need go to battle unarmed. I want to add, I never really thought about that. Our armory is completely stored, meaning, if you have battle gear, you've got to keep the gun clean, for example. You've got to keep your knife sharpened and things polished. Rust creeps in. Debris corrodes and corrupts and makes things unusable, and or things are stolen. Well, our armor is completely stored. It's safely stored. So all we have to do is put it on. All we have to do is take up the sword of the Lord, which is the word, and read it. And it's, in all the years, it's never been corrupted, meaning it's not gone to rust. It's not unusable. It's gleaming. It's sharp. It's mighty. And it's there for us. It's readily available to us. So we don't need to go to battle unarmed. And every day, and I am no model example of this. Every day or every situation that comes up, we can easily be unarmed, but we don't have to be. And that's me. I have to remind myself. Even in the midst of this, a lot of the things I kind of pay attention to, maybe a little too much of this stuff going on, and sometimes I get out of faith in this. I start thinking about what I'm going to have to go through. Am I going to be able to buy or sell? Not because they're going to come to the door with a needle and going to try to vaccinate me, and I'm going to have to die in a hail of bullets, because I'm not going to let that happen. No, they're not going to do that necessarily. They might, to some degree, to cause people to shoot back, and it's a big game for Satan. The Lord doesn't. He doesn't take delight in the when the wicked perish, right? But Satan takes delight when all perish. I mean, he brings death. He steals. He destroys. That's his modus operandi, right? So he rejoices. And those who are full of him, those who are in obedience to the spirit of disobedience, those who are wicked, hard-hearted, they have. I mean, the devil's not omnipresent, but there's a lot of demons, and there's a lot of fallen angels, and there's a lot of people who have ascended to heights of power, who are conscientiously serving the wicked one. It's truth. Now, if you don't live in that world of belief in the unseen, you're really blind. And this is where, again, Jesus is the answer. He healed a lot of blind people and gave them their sight. And these days, the sight we need is spiritual, really. We need to be able to see these things. And if you don't see it, you're blind. And don't even know you're blind. And that's a frightening place to be. Although ignorance is bliss, at one point it stops being bliss and starts being an extreme liability, the greatest liability. All right, moving on. Okay. The horn of my salvation, air quotes, enabling me to push down my foes and to triumph over them with holy exultation. My high tower, air quotes, a citadel high planted on a rocky eminence beyond the reach of my enemies, from the heights of which I look down upon their fury without alarm, and survey a wide landscape of mercy reaching even unto the goodly land beyond Jordan. Here are many words, but none too many. We might profitably examine each one of them had we had leisure, but summing up the whole, we may conclude with Calvin that David here equips the faithful from head to foot. Now, I don't want to get into Calvin. It's unfortunate that that's mentioned, because I believe he had someone burned at the stake. But that's not the focus of this right now. But it talks about being on a citadel planted on a rocky eminence beyond the reach of the enemies. Think of this image and bring it to mind. today as you go about your business, and things assail you in your mind, and your fears creep in. Whether it's about things and people in your life and situations, or whether it's about this mass Borg, this hive mind of painting arrows on sidewalks and insisting you wear masks and getting vaccinated and staying inside and being afraid of people, and you don't touch anyone or anything anymore because it's like you're going to break. Well, it really is an affront to the Creator, because He created you and I with immune systems that are symbiotic with all the environmental things we deal with. And when you all of a sudden withhold yourself from what's being called herd immunity, or being around people, or sterilizing everything, are you really in balance? Are you really walking with God? Think about that. Are you walking in fear, and are you actually I'm struggling for the word here. Short-circuiting, really, the gifts God gave you, an immune system. You're compromising your own immune system. Your immune system, just like a man needs work to do and something to accomplish and someone to protect, and built that way. Your immune system's built to be fighting these things, and I don't know. Strange times, but what do people expect? That mark of the beast and is going to come around? They're going to come around and say, we're chipping you, and we're putting a chip in your forehead or in your hand? No, I don't think so. I think it's more going to be something like you're going to want to have it. Well, what will happen is that if you don't take it, I think I didn't finish my thoughts on this. If you don't take something like this, like a vaccine, because they are wanting, and even your precious Trump is promoting it, talking about the military being needed and built up like it's never been before, and they're going to help distribute the vaccines. What does that mean? Well, the first thought is, they're going to come door to door, and you're going to either take the vaccine or be killed. I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen. What's more likely to happen is that if you don't take a vaccine, private enterprise and big box type stores, corporations, they are merged with government, which is fascism, and they are going to deny you the right to do business, to buy and sell, unless you can show that you've been marked as vaccinated. Well, that seems to me the more likely way this will get accomplished, and I can honestly be comfortable saying, there's many years people are always trying to identify what's the mark of the beast. Is it Sunday worship, right? Is it the RFID chip? Is it social security number? All these kinds of things. Well, I will say that those kind of things are a mark of the beast. But do they meet all the qualifications? Can't you still buy and sell? Are you going to be killed if you don't do those things? No. But if they do roll out something like you have to take a vaccine, and eventually you cannot buy or sell or enter stores or do business or anything like that, you're basically every community, you're persona non grata. It's going to separate people like nothing else before, because now you've got a whole class of lepers. Everyone who won't take a vaccine is now a leper, basically. And make no mistake, people are the same in every age. People haven't changed. And the ancient evil one knows how to get people, even in our modern day, to behave as they did before. So there'll be a shunning and perhaps sub-communities, but if that's possible, people that are vagabonds and live on the outskirts of society, they won't be able to buy or sell. Some will be killed. They'll be killed because they get in trouble and get arrested, get tased, have heart attacks, or end up getting shot. Who knows? But there's other ways to kill a man or a woman. You can kill a man or a woman financially. You can kill a man or woman socially. You can kill a man or woman physically, yes, but you can kill them. You can destroy their lives in other ways. There you go, right? And you can kill a man by locking him up. So what happens when somebody can't buy or sell, or they can't even own property, or anything like that? They can't. Nobody's going to rent to them because they can't have them in their building because they haven't been vaccinated. They're not going to take this vaccination. Well, now you're a vagrant. What happens to vagrants? They have laws against vagrancy. Throw you in the clink. Who knows what's going to happen to you in there? Is this frightening, dark, dystopian world? Well, it's upon us. Here we are. Oh, that'll never happen. Nobody's going to let that happen. Really? You really have that much faith in people these days? Look how people are behaving. I don't know what percentage of it is of people, but they go along with this because it's the easiest thing to do. Isn't that people? I mean, come on, you know it's true. Even some who talk a big game, you know, they go along with it when, you know. Anyway, all right, I got to move on in the morning, and so do you. I hope you make a great day. Remember that the waves will keep crashing, the storms and the seas will surge, but if you abide in him, you'll be safe high upon a hill. He is the rock of your salvation, and he'll answer you speedily and descend from heaven to fight your battles, to fight my battles. Oh, my words sound hollow to myself when I say that, because I know that and I've seen it in my own life. But every time, it's a battle itself to plow through the doubt that comes in that really, you know, the Lord's gonna do that for me. The Lord's gonna hear my prayer. I don't see anything changing. The people who are treating me badly, who are ripping me off, who are saying bad things about me, who are cold and mean, and I can't ever get advantage, and all these kinds of things, right? Or have stolen from you. They get away with it, whatnot. Whatever it is, it doesn't seem to change. Well, someone dear to me once, they had an expression that was, you know, old hat to them. They'd known it all their lives, but I'd never heard it. Life's a long road without a turn. So what does that mean? It means that things are changing, but maybe you can't perceive them. Things are turning, but you can't necessarily, the road's so long, you can't necessarily see the turn. So, but eventually you might be headed east, but it'll turn you north. You might be headed south. Well, maybe it's better to put south. That'd be quite a long turnaround, 180 degrees. But you get the idea, okay? Sometimes I feel a need to like completely. Analogies aren't perfect, right? But make a great day. Thanks for watching.